Okay, so you're considering making the move to Utah, or perhaps you've already made that move and you're looking for the perfect place to find a new home here in Utah, and you want to learn everything there is to know about the state of Utah. Well, that is the video that I'm creating here today for you. I'm going to do it through a full map tour of the state of Utah. First, I'm going to outline all 5 of the metropolitan areas with a focus, of course, on the 3 major metropolitan areas that run along the Wasatch Front here near Salt Lake City. But then I'm going to talk about the different areas and attractions that bring people from all over the world. Millions of people per year come to the state of Utah to experience the beautiful outdoors, the 5 national parks, the world-class skiing, and last but not least, I'm going to share the areas that you might want to avoid depending on your lifestyle and what it is you're looking to accomplish and what's important to you. So with all that said, if this is the type of content that resonates with you, hit that like button on this video and subscribe for more content just like this, and drop a comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts because it is precisely your comments that drive the content on this channel. And with that said, let's get started. Okay, so let's jump right into the map and share with you everything you need to know about the state of Utah. And right here, I've pulled up Google Maps to kind of go through this with you. Now, my hope here is to not just be a tour guide. My hope is to not give you information that you're just going to simply find in an atlas or an online forum, for example. I want to actually give you truth about what it is like to live in these different areas and the pros and cons of these areas, but most of all, which areas you might want to avoid. So let's get started. Okay, so right here we have the state of Utah, and as you zoom right into the state of Utah, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is basically where the majority of the people here in Utah do choose to make home. And the first thing that I want to talk about is there's one thing in the state of Utah that really sets the parameters as to where people have settled and made home here in the state, and that is this Wasatch Front. This is a mountain range that runs north-south through the state of Utah, pretty much cutting the state in half east-west, and it's right along the western side of the Wasatch Front that is the most populated area in Utah. So as you continue and you look through here, this mountain range, as we zoom in here a little bit, we have 3 major metropolitan areas that fit right along this mountain range. And number 1, we have the Salt Lake City metropolitan area. We have the Provo-Orem metropolitan area, which is the fastest growing county and metropolitan area in the state of Utah right now. And last but not least, we have the Ogden-Clearfield metropolitan area up here to the north. Okay, and it's precisely this mountain range, the Wasatch Mountains, that cuts this state in half and is the first mountain range of the Rocky Mountains. So we have the Wasatch Front to the west side of those mountains, and on the eastern side right here, this is what we call the Wasatch Back. This is where you'll find places like Park City, you'll find places like Camas and Oakley, and so many other places. These beautiful mountain towns on the Wasatch Back are typically about 2,500 to 3,000 feet higher in elevation than what we are down here in the Salt Lake Valley, which sits at about 4,500 feet in elevation. So with that, you get a little bit colder temperatures, cooler summers, and of course more snow in the wintertime. Okay, so why is it that the vast majority of the people that live in the state of Utah live right along the Wasatch Front? Well, if I draw right here on the map, this area right here between these 3 metropolitan areas, these areas account for a combined 2.55 million people. That is the majority of the population of the state of Utah. We have just over 1 million people that reside outside of that particular area, but 2.5 million people and growing just along the Wasatch Front. And why is that? Well, here is exactly why. Utah is the second driest state in the entire country. And it is precisely those mountains where all of that incredible amount of snow falls that provides the lifeblood, which is water, to the entire population throughout the Wasatch Front. So that is why people settled here to begin with, because we have those beautiful mountains right in our backyard, and it provides the very incredibly powerful resource of natural water that provides the resource of life for not just our crops, but also for us as well. And it's kind of incredible that Utah has become known over many, many decades for having the greatest snow on earth and some of the best skiing in all of North America. And right here, this is the reason why. Right here along the Wasatch Mountains, we have ski resorts littered all throughout the Wasatch Mountains, both to the north of Salt Lake City, to the east of Salt Lake City, as well as to the south. If I zoom right in here to Salt Lake City itself, This is a primary reason why people chose to make Park City home and why Park City has thrived so much. To get from downtown Salt Lake City or the airport, which is located right here, and up I-80 and into Park City, it literally takes anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes most of the time if there's not heavy traffic. But the beautiful part is that these mountains provide a ridge or a crest. This is the Wasatch Crest. Everything on this side goes this direction, everything on this side of that crest goes this direction. And with that comes ski resorts. We have a tremendous amount of ski resorts in this particular region. In fact, right here, where I'm sitting in my office right now, which is right here, we have Big Cottonwood Canyon right here and Little Cottonwood Canyon right here. And between those two canyons, we have 4 ski resorts that have more snow than just about any ski resort in all of North America. So right here we have Snowbird and Alta up Little Cottonwood Canyon, and over here in Big Cottonwood Canyon, we have Solitude and Brighton. It is these ski resorts that typically see far more snow than any ski resort in Colorado or any other ski resort throughout the United States. 500 plus inches per year, and on a record year like 2 years ago, these ski resorts saw 900 inches of snow just in 1 year. But just on the other side of the Wasatch Crest, on the Park City side, you'll also have many resorts. We have Deer Valley Resort, we have Park City Mountain Resort, and the canyons. So we have ski resorts all over the place. This is a major attraction for the state of Utah and provides an industry of tourism that is absolutely incredible. And if we look beyond just the Salt Lake City metropolitan area, if you go up to the north, we have some amazing ski resorts up here as well. But if we go just east of the Ogden metropolitan area, just in the backside of the Wasatch Mountains there, we have several more ski resorts, and they are Powder Mountain up here to the north. We also have Snow Basin and Nordic Valley, and that makes up an incredible amount of skiing up in the northern part of the state. And these ski resorts are typically a little less busy, or quite a bit less busy, than the Park City resorts or the Cottonwood resorts just outside of Salt Lake City. Now, if we zoom back out and move down to the south into Utah County, our third metropolitan area, we have another ski resort right up here just on the east side of Utah County, and that is Sundance. Sundance is a really cool little ski resort. It's not as big as most of the other ski resorts, and one thing that really stuck out to me when I'm doing my research, Utah has only half as many ski resorts as the state of Colorado. However, Utah has more skiable acres than any other state, including Colorado. So although we only have half as many resorts, we still have more skiable acres. What does that mean to you? That means that if you are going skiing, you're typically going to get more bang for your buck because the resort that you're going to is going to be twice as large as most of the resorts in Colorado. Okay, so basically we have 3 metropolitan areas right along the Wasatch Front that makes up just over 2.5 million people. And that consists of the Ogden-Clearfield, the Salt Lake City, and the Provo-Orem metropolitan areas. This is where most people choose to live, and rightfully so. It's the center of all things Utah in terms of where people choose to live, but there are still 2 other metropolitan areas that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. Okay, so how is that population distributed? Basically, up here to the north, we have just about 800,000 people. Here in the Salt Lake County metropolitan area, we have 1.25 million people. And down here in the Utah County area, it's getting close to about 900,000 people. So these are the population centers that make up the Wasatch Front where most people choose to make home. But let's move on and talk about the other 2 metropolitan areas. And we have another metropolitan area, albeit much smaller, up here to the north. This area is the Logan metropolitan area, and it makes up this area right here. You'll also notice that just like the Wasatch Front, it has a massive mountain range right here that protects it to the east, which means just like Salt Lake City, the Logan metropolitan areas sees the same winter inversions. In fact, oftentimes the winter inversions up in the Logan metropolitan area are worse than they are in the Salt Lake City area. So those inversions are certainly something to be mindful of. It is one of the things that the vast majority of people absolutely hate about Utah. We don't see them really set in every single year, but on average, we see about 2 weeks worth, maybe 3 weeks worth of inversion weather each and every winter, basically due to the geography here and how the air moves across from west to the east and how we really get that air trapped in these valleys. It obviously not only traps the air, but it traps the pollutants as well. And that is one of the worst things about living in the state of Utah, especially right here along the Wasatch Front. Okay, so if we're talking about Logan, it's a small college town. It's home of Utah State University. It's a small college town. There's certainly some real appeal to living in the Logan area. There's a lot of farming communities. You can see as you drive through this area, it's very green, it's beautiful. It's absolutely up and coming, and it's going to continue to grow as the decades wear on. And one of my favorite things about Logan is its proximity to one of the best recreational places here in the state of Utah, and it's this lake in Bear Lake. This lake spans across both the state of Idaho as well as Utah, but this lake is affectionately known as the Caribbean of the Rockies. It has turquoise blue waters and is a beautiful place for a summertime retreat to get out of the city, to experience a little bit cooler summer and really get away. It's a really hot spot for cabins too if you're looking to purchase a cabin. We still, however, have one more metropolitan area to cover, and that is in the southwest corner of the state in St. George. Let's go take a look. St. George is an up-and-coming city. It's growing tremendously fast. In fact, many years, St. George has been one of the fastest growing cities in the entire country. So if we zoom in onto St. George down here, we can see the landscape down here is completely different. This is the Red Rocks of southern Utah, surrounded by Zion National Park, Bryce Canyon National Park, and red rock everywhere. It's absolutely stunning. The climate is completely different. This is the one place in the state of Utah where you'll see palm trees everywhere. You will not have to see snow in the wintertime. It's a climate more similar to that of Las Vegas, but in my opinion, much, much, much more beautiful because of the red rocks and the canyons and the national parks nearby. So as we zoom into this small town of St. George, it's not just the town of St. George, it's all of these other little towns around it, from Hurricane to Washington to Santa Clara. All of these places are included in the St. George metropolitan area. St. George is really growing fast. As I visit St. George very frequently, I'm down there quite often, and as I experience St. George throughout the week, not just the weekend, this place is getting busy. The restaurants are busy, everything's hopping. And one thing I'd like to point out is the transportation in St. George is a little more difficult. I want to talk about that, and I'll talk about the northern areas as well here shortly. But basically, St. George is kind of a triangle. We have I-15 cutting all the way through here, but we basically have this series of roads that lead in different directions where you can actually get around the town, and the limitation is in the landscape. You'll notice that there are geographical features, there are bluffs and plateaus that really break things up. You have this protrusion here, you have another one here, and it really kind of confines where you can actually go. And so getting around these areas can be a little difficult in terms of how long it takes. It can be very deceiving because you don't have major freeways other than the major freeway in I-15 running from north down to the south. Okay, enough about just St. George. The main attractions in and around St. George, right here we have Snow Canyon State Park. If Snow Canyon State Park doesn't impress you, I don't know what will. This is a beautiful landscape. It's red rocks. It's covered in so many different types of lava rock and so much more. This area is absolutely stunning. It's one of my favorite things to see when I'm down in the St. George area. But the biggest attraction near St. George is Utah's most visited national park, and that is Zion National Park. So right here, just to the northeast of St. George, we can find Zion National Park. And it is my opinion that Zion National Park is one of the most breathtaking places to visit in the state of Utah. I love this place. It's absolutely beautiful. If you have the opportunity to visit, even if you're not looking to live in or around St. George, you have to check out Zion National Park. Okay, and while on that topic, we've covered the 5 metropolitan areas. We've talked about those things. Let's go back and check out the transportation throughout the state and how this really impacts the state of Utah. So as I zoom back into the major metropolitan areas right along the Wasatch Front, I can see the different freeway systems that carry people through the state of Utah. So let's just talk about that real quickly. So as we zoom back out to the state of Utah and look at the Wasatch Front, and transportation is another major concern. So let's just cover that really quick. I want to talk about the major freeways that come in and through the state, and that is starting with I-80 from the east all the way through Salt Lake City, and this goes all the way to the west. Now, if you continue westward, this will take you to San Francisco. And if you go to the east, you can make your way all the way to Chicago and then picking up through Pennsylvania into New York City. So from San Francisco to New York City goes I-80 right through the heart of Salt Lake City. And north to south, we have I-15 running all the way through the state of Utah. Now down here, this goes all the way through the St. George metropolitan area, then through Las Vegas, and then all the way down into Los Angeles and down into Southern California. Up to the north, this goes all the way to Canada. And this is precisely why Salt Lake City has been given the nickname Crossroads of the West. This is absolutely basically cutting our country into 4 quadrants here, right through the heart of Salt Lake City, and I think that's kind of cool. Now, if we zoom into the Salt Lake City metropolitan area, we can see another series of freeways and highways that are constructed or being constructed that really help people get around. So again, we have I-15 running north-south right here. We have I-80 running here all the way east to west. We also have another freeway right here in SR 201 that helps people move east and west. And then we also have I-215 that runs as our belt route all the way around the city. But another thing I wanted to talk about is the new development. The majority of the growth in Salt Lake County is to the southwest of downtown Salt Lake City. And this is where two new freeways are being built. One is a highway that's being completely converted into a freeway in Bangerter Highway. Bangerter Highway starts right here off of I-15 and runs all the way up and straight into the airport, which is right here. And I think that's really cool because it makes getting to the airport incredibly convenient if you live anywhere on the west side of the Salt Lake Valley. But the newest freeway that's being constructed is the Mountain View corridor that will connect all the way from I-80 all the way along the west side of the Salt Lake Valley and down into Utah County, where the most recent developments are happening right down here in the northern portion of Utah County, where they're connecting the freeway here over to I-15, as well as building it out towards Eagle Mountain and down into Saratoga Springs. Now, if you know the growth that's happening along the Wasatch Front, this is where the vast majority of the growth is happening right now. But that's going to run out as this area fills up. The areas that are most popular will start continuing to spread outward from the city. But this part of Salt Lake City is important to consider. And if it's your goal to make sure that you have easy access in and out of the city as well as the airport, this area down here, as well as the south end of Salt Lake County, is getting better and better in terms of the highways and the freeways that they're building. So that's basically Salt Lake County in a nutshell. But I did want to talk about and touch on one more negative thing about getting around the Salt Lake City area, and that is east-west travel. So we can see here all of our freeways are running north-south for the most part. It's the east-west travel that gets a little bogged down. So it's those surface streets when you're trying to make your way home in the evening during rush hour that can really slow you down. For example, you can see where I'm located here at my office here. I typically take 215 down to I-15, and then I come right out here to South Jordan where I live in Daybreak. Now, getting east-west on 215 is a breeze, but getting east-west anywhere along these areas can be very slow during rush hour traffic. So I would say if you're looking to make a commute and your timing of your work schedule is going to align with rush hour traffic, keep that in mind when you're considering a place to live, because that east-west travel typically will take just as long as the north-south travel that's 3 or 4 times the distance. So keep that in mind. But if we continue down to the south, we talked about what's happening here in Utah County to the northern end of Utah County, which is the new freeways that are being built here. Down to the south, though, we just have I-15 coming right through here. These other highways that you can see on the map right now, they're not freeways. Those are just surface streets with streetlights. It's this one freeway going all the way down through Utah County. And I see the biggest problem area in Utah County starting to become down here in this area, because it is going to be one of the fastest growing areas in the state as this area up to the north starts to fill up a little bit more. And as we go back up to the north and go into Davis and Weber counties, now Davis and Weber County make up the vast majority of what is considered the Ogden-Clearfield metropolitan area. And basically, Davis County is here to the south of this line, and Weber County is to the north of this line. Now that line may not be perfectly accurate, but it's pretty close. This area right here is incredibly fast growing, and you can see what we've done here with our freeway system. We have a major freeway here in I-15 running north-south all the way through the state. They've also adapted a highway, which is not a freeway, but Highway 89 running along the East Bench. But the one thing that I really wanted to talk about is this Legacy Parkway that was built, and now the new freeway that is extending out on the west side of Weber County and through Davis County. This freeway is going to help that population that is booming in that part of the valley. So if we zoom in up here to Davis and Weber County to the north of Salt Lake City, we have some major growth happening here as well along the west side. So just like anywhere else, it's this west side of the city that is growing the most, and with that comes the growing pains, the transportation, all of those things. And if you're considering public transportation as something that's really important to you, you might want to realize that the vast majority of the best public transportation is located in and around Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County. Okay, last but not least, on the topic of transportation, let's talk about public transportation. Salt Lake City and the metropolitan area, the Salt Lake Valley, is where you'll find the best public transportation in terms of buses, light rail systems, as well as higher speed trains. We do have what's known as the Front Runner train that runs north-south from Davis County down into Utah County and right through Salt Lake County. But we also have a major light rail system that operates right here in Salt Lake County, and that is called TRAX. That's a great system. Some people use that instead of using their car because it really helps you get around the city. You can pretty much catch that in most places. There are stops all throughout the valley. In fact, right here in Daybreak where I live, there are 2 stops, and I think there's going to be a 3rd coming soon as the downtown Daybreak area gets built out. But you can make your way into the city using a light rail system, which is really convenient. But outside of Salt Lake County, you're probably not going to find that public transportation even remotely addresses your concerns or what might be important to you. So if public transportation is really important to you, it's going to be in Salt Lake County. Okay, moving on. We've talked about the areas where most people are choosing to make home and where they want to live. We can see here along the Wasatch Front, it doesn't matter which county you're in, if you're in Salt Lake County or Utah County or up north in Davis and Weber counties, we really see that the vast majority of the older homes, the more established homes, the homes that are in well-developed neighborhoods are going to be towards the east side. So everywhere towards the mountains to the east is going to be the older homes, whereas the newer stuff and the newer development is out to the west. And that is just the natural progression of how people have settled this area and how the neighborhoods have been built out and developed. So if new construction is something that's really appealing to you and you want to live in a new suburb, a new development, or even something that's planned with all sorts of amenities, you might want to consider living out on the west side of these metropolitan areas, whether that be in Salt Lake County, down in Utah County, or up north in Davis or Weber counties. It's the areas to the west where you'll find the new growth. It's the areas to the east where you'll typically see the older homes. All right, moving on. We've talked about where people choose to make home. Where do people choose to play? There's so many cool places and adventures you can take here in the state of Utah. We talked and touched on the ski resorts along the Wasatch Front. We also talked about Zion and a little bit about Bryce Canyon down by the St. George area. But where are all of the other attractions? Let's check it out. Okay, so there's a few attractions that we want to talk about here really quickly. Just west of Salt Lake City, this is an absolutely beautiful place. It is stunning, it's amazing. It's right out here to the west, and that is the Bonneville Salt Flats. If you've seen pictures or seen video of people at the Bonneville Salt Flats, it's absolutely amazing. It's a cool place to visit. You've got to check it out. Another attraction that I think is really cool here in the Salt Lake City area is Antelope Island. Antelope Island is a beautiful place with incredible sunsets. There's even buffalo there. There are so many different antelope and different species of different wildlife. It is a really cool place to visit. You might want to be aware though, however, that this little area, this little road that gets across the Great Salt Lake into Antelope Island, if you hit that road in May, I think it is, you'll be timing your visit to Antelope Island with the hatching of all of the gnats that grow there. Those little bugs will completely cover your vehicle and will make it absolutely impossible to even get out of your vehicle while you're visiting Antelope Island. So outside of that little brief period in the springtime, Antelope Island is an absolutely stunning and beautiful place to go visit. And of course, up to the north, we talked about Bear Lake. It's a major attraction. It's really beautiful up there. Bear Lake is awesome, but there are so many other reservoirs throughout the Wasatch Mountains that are really fun to recreate in as well, whether that be boating or skiing. Let's check those out as well. But there are plenty of other reservoirs as well. So right here we have Pineview Reservoir. This is a beautiful place to go and visit. We also have, just a little further south, we have a bunch of other reservoirs. We have East Canyon and Echo and Rockport reservoirs, as well as many others throughout the mountains over here. And just a little bit further to the south, just east of Salt Lake City, we have a couple of really cool places that are really fun to visit. If we zoom out just a little bit, we have some incredible reservoirs and lakes over here as well that are really fun to recreate. We have Jordanelle Reservoir, Deer Creek, just outside of Heber, and over here, one of the best fishing spots in the entire state of Utah in Strawberry Reservoir. These are beautiful places to recreate, and you're still very close to the city, depending on where you live. Utah is an incredible place to recreate, and that doesn't stop with skiing and with the national parks. There's some amazing places up in these mountains. Now, I do want to cover and talk about just a little bit further east from Salt Lake City. We have another mountain range to the east. This mountain range is the second mountain range in Utah that is part of the Rocky Mountains, and that is our highest mountain range, and that is the Uinta Mountains. The Uinta Mountains are spotted. You can't tell from this map, but the Uinta Mountains are absolutely spotted with thousands of tiny lakes. If I zoom in, you can see these little lakes. People like to go backpacking up into these high mountain areas, and the scenery and the experience is breathtaking. It's absolutely amazing. One of my favorite things to do up around the Uinta Mountains is snowmobiling. You'll get the best snowmobiling of anywhere in the state, in my opinion. It's an absolutely incredible place to visit. And one of my favorite places in the state of Utah that I visited for a month at a time each and every summer growing up is this reservoir in the northeastern corner of the state of Utah, and that is Flaming Gorge. Flaming Gorge Reservoir is absolutely stunning. You'll notice part of it goes into Wyoming, but this reservoir is absolutely incredible. Many of the state records for fishing are coming from this particular reservoir. I believe the state record for lake trout still comes from this reservoir as well. It's an absolutely stunning place, and if you haven't had the chance to visit Flaming Gorge as a local, I would highly recommend you do so. And as I take a peek here at just some of the photos of Flaming Gorge, it brings back a lot of memories for me. You have a beautiful high mountain reservoir here. It's beautiful, it's stunning. The lake is actually really deep. There's some incredible fishing here. And so Flaming Gorge is an absolutely beautiful place. I'd highly recommend visiting this place. It's beautiful. Now, if we zoom back out a little bit out of the state of Utah and go down to the south is the biggest playground of all. This is where all 5 of our national parks are. I want to touch on those really quick. And we have some incredible little towns down here as well. The first thing I want to talk about and highlight is this little town of Moab. If you are into the outdoors, if you're into mountain biking, if you're into hiking, river running, if you're into Jeeps or off-road vehicles, Moab is the mecca of all things outdoors in the state of Utah. People travel to Moab from all over the world to experience Slick Rock, which is a famous mountain bike trail, but also all of the Jeep trails, the UTV trails. And the Colorado River runs right next to Moab that cuts right through the canyons and creates 2 national parks. It goes right through Arches National Park as well as Canyonlands National Park. So as we zoom in here to the little town of Moab, this is a really cool place to experience. And just like I said before, you have 2 national parks, beautiful national parks right next to Moab in Arches and Canyonlands. These are absolutely beautiful. I've experienced them in every way possible, both in the bottom of Canyonlands as well as the top, up above, looking down. Arches, hiking throughout Arches is absolutely amazing. I'd highly recommend taking that experience. Even if you live anywhere in the state of Utah, you've got to go experience places like Arches and Canyonlands. Arches National Park's claim to fame is, of course, the highest concentration of natural arches in the entire world. It is these sandstone rocks that were cut by the Colorado River as well as erosion that created this incredible place known as Arches National Park. And just to the southwest of Arches, you find Canyonlands. Now, this is where the Green River and the Colorado River merge and create one of the most beautiful places in this country. This is a place that is absolutely breathtaking. You can see from up above, you sit on this plateau looking down, but again, there are more arches in this particular national park, but there's some incredible scenes and stunning scenery that you can experience no matter where you are in Canyonlands National Park. Now, if we bounce back out and continue looking around the south end of the state, so we have those 2 national parks, and right here in the middle of the state, we have what I consider one of the most underrated national parks, especially here in the state of Utah. If it weren't for the others that are really close by and the easier access to get to Arches and Canyonlands, as well as Bryce Canyon and Zion to the west, this is kind of more centrally located, and that is Capitol Reef National Park. Capitol Reef is a beautiful place to drive through. It's one of the most underrated national parks, in my opinion, in the entire country, and you get to experience the lush green of these little mountain towns right up against these red rocks, these towering reefs of red rocks around you. It's absolutely beautiful. It's pretty cool to experience. All right, zooming back out. So we've covered southern Utah. We've talked about the different national parks there, but there are so many other things like Fish Lake National Forest. There are so many other places to experience in southern Utah, as well as central Utah, that we don't have time to cover all of that in this video. But the last thing that I really wanted to talk about when you're considering making that move to Utah or relocate within the state of Utah, things that you need to avoid, things that you need to consider. We talked a little bit about air quality. We talked about the inversions. If you live anywhere along the Wasatch Front or even up in Logan, you're going to experience those inversions. Outside of that, you're going to experience much cleaner air in the wintertime. So that's something worth considering. What's another major concern that people have in the state of Utah in terms of moving here? That is proximity to the airport. It is right next to downtown Salt Lake City. You might find it more convenient to live closer to Salt Lake City, if that's the case, either to the west in Tooele County or to the south in Utah County. or even up north in Davis County. Those are the areas that you're going to want to live in if reaching that airport is really crucial to you to get there within 30 to 40 minutes. And of course, St. George is a completely different experience altogether. If you're considering St. George, reach out to me. I would love to have a conversation with you as well. And St. George is one of the hottest places in Utah, both metaphorically as well as literally in the entire state. So if that's the type of lifestyle you're looking for, let's go explore St. George together as well. One of the things I wanted to touch on is some people that are reaching out to me through YouTube have a major concern with moving to the state of Utah, seeing if they think that they'll feel like they fit into this community, because we are a pretty different place. I'd love to have that conversation with you, as well as dive into both the pros and the cons of living in Utah. It is not my goal to sell you on moving to Utah. My goal in this video is to educate those that are looking for answers to their specific questions. And you, the viewer, can find all of those answers scattered throughout all of my videos right here on my channel. And so if you're looking for more specific answers to your very specific questions, reach out to me. I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. I have a team to help you. And check out this playlist next to find out more of those answers that you're looking for. And until the next video, thanks.